A woman whose face keeps changing finds herself in a strange facility where a demonic entity is hunting down the patients. As she struggles with her identity, she desperately peels away the layers that mask the facility for what it really is. A woman wakes up in a room, uncertain of how she got there. She tries opening the window, but it's locked. The woman becomes more confused as she doesn't recognize her reflection. She tries exiting the room, but the door is also locked. So she calls out. Someone from the next room replies, advising her to be quiet since the doctors and nurses can return at any time. Hearing this, the woman wonders if she's sick, which would explain why she doesn't remember anything. Her neighbor then insists that the woman is Anne, even if they can't see each other. As Anne wonders about this, she notices a strange picture of a deer on the wall. Suddenly, a cockroach crawls out from it, so she uses the Bible from the nightstand to kill it. Upon seeing the smashed insect on the cover, she throws the book away in disgust and screams. Just then, she notices her reflection, and her face has changed. Anne cries, alerting the nurses from outside. They pin her to the bed and inject her with a sedative, assuring her that she's hallucinating. One of the nurses also whispers that it's impossible for a person's face to suddenly change. After the nurses leave, her neighbor admits that she doesn't know if she's the real Anne, but she's sure that the nurse is a liar because she was also told that she's Anne. When she wakes up, Anne sees that her face has changed again. She checks the hallway outside through the peephole, wondering how long they'll be kept there. Her neighbor thinks it'll be until they die. She shares that Vertigo, a monster with a deer's head, arrives at night to hunt them. Anne recognizes the story from a video game that's set in the woods, triggering a memory of driving through the woods at night. Suddenly, the doctor arrives, claiming that Anne is there because she can't remember who she is. She assures her patient that they're treating many patients with the same condition, and their records show that she is Anne. The patient comments that it doesn't sound like her name, but the doctor assures her that she'll help her figure out who she is. With that, the doctor starts rubbing the rim of her glass to make a sound, which puts Anne in a trance. She pictures the ocean and driving into the woods. She then sees herself in a car's passenger seat, but her face changes again. When she wakes up, Anne becomes distraught that her face has changed, but the doctor implies that it hasn't. At night, Anne hears another patient knocking at her door, telling her that they must run. Scared, Anne pushes the door closed, asking the woman if she is her neighbor since her voice sounds different. The other woman tells her that Vertigo is coming and it'll kill her, yet Anne still refuses to go. Suddenly, music starts playing around them. Anne peers into the peephole and catches a glimpse of the demon as it chases the other woman. Anne shuts the lights in her room to avoid its attention, then looks into the peephole just as the other woman rushes to her door, begging to be let in. Still, Anne refuses. When she looks again, the demon repeatedly slams the other woman's head against her door before killing her. Blood pools from under the door, so she backs away. When the door moves, she desperately pushes it closed, crying in fear. She holds the door closed until morning comes. When she wakes up, the blood is gone. When a nurse checks on Anne, she immediately heads to her neighbor's room. When she doesn't find the other woman, she spots some nurses taking another patient on a gurney. Anne checks, but the patient is a bespectacled woman, not her neighbor. While the other patient is wheeled into the next room, Anne gets pulled back into hers, where they sedate her. Later, Anne, whose face has changed again, recounts what happened to the doctor, who thinks her mind was just playing tricks on her. The doctor assures her that she'll be out as soon as she discovers who she is. Thus, they begin another round of hypnotherapy. This time, Anne recalls being on a beach, though her face is different again. She's with a man who slowly goes into the water while she cries. Suddenly, someone says cut, and Anne wakes up. At night, she worries about the demon, so she checks outside. She then knocks on her new neighbor's door and warns her about Vertigo. The bespectacled woman doesn't believe her, but they hear someone screaming from another room. They check and find another patient holding her bathroom door closed, claiming that something is inside. When Anne opens the door, however, the bathroom is empty. Still, the other patient claims that Vertigo followed her, finally convincing the bespectacled woman that Anne's story is real. The other patient shares that she dreamt about running away, but Vertigo took her back. She then claims that she's also Anne and assumes that the others are named the same. This makes them wonder about the other patients, so they quietly follow a nurse downstairs until they see her stashing the keys to the records cabinet under a plant pot. After the nurse leaves, they steal the keys and check the patient's records, which reveals that all patients in the facility are named Anne. Anne then checks the employees' lockers until she finds a cell phone. To her surprise, the phone unlocks with her thumbprint, but her companions suddenly scream as Anne's face changes changes into the same woman on the screen's wallpaper. This confirms that Anne's face changes, which has also happened to one of her companions. Suddenly, music starts playing, alerting them that Vertigo has arrived. The women run, but the bespectacled one trips and loses her glasses. With her blurry vision, she gets separated from the others and struggles to escape. She ends up in an auditorium where Vertigo corners her. It returns her broken glasses before slamming them against her face, killing her. Realizing that she's gone, Anne wants to find her, but her companion insists that this isn't the time to be a hero. With no choice, they hide in a room, only to find Vertigo there. Anne backs away while her companion gets hit by a sledgehammer. When the woman begs for help, Anne reminds her that this isn't the time to be a hero before running away, thus leaving her companion's fate to the demon. In the hallway, Anne sees a nurse heading down the stairs, so she follows her, only to find Vertigo heading up. She runs to an abandoned dining hall and hides under a stack of chairs. Hearing the door open, Anne keeps quiet as Vertigo searches for her. The demon pulls out a tablecloth, making the chairs crash and pin Anne down. This allows Vertigo to kill her. In the morning, Anne wakes up with a new face in a room similar to hers but reversed. A new neighbor starts panicking next door, so Anne tells her to be quiet as the doctors and nurses will return soon. She tells the new patient that she's Anne because they all are. Suddenly, she sees a cockroach crawling from the picture again, so Anne takes the Bible. However, it hides behind the picture before she can slam it. Just then, she hears her neighbor hitting the wall as if she had killed a cockroach from her room. Before Anne can process what's happening, her head starts aching, so she yells at her neighbor to be quiet. When she hears her neighbor telling a nurse that her face changed, Anne realizes that her neighbor is her from the past. After a while, she meets the doctor again, so she tries convincing her that she's the same Anne from yesterday, but her face keeps changing. The doctor merely advises her to accept the fate she sees in the mirror. The doctor puts her in a trance again, and Anne finds herself in a room full of other patients. She watches as a woman in a suit approaches the patient in front of her. The patient looks back to Anne, then leaves with the woman. When Anne wakes up, she's wearing the face of the other patient. At night, she checks on her neighbor, who's staying in her old room. She finds the new Anne scared on the floor, so she warns her that they should leave. However, the new woman doesn't trust her as her voice is different. To prove her claims, she recounts what the new Anne did this afternoon, proving that she was her in the past. She warns that the staff will be gone, and Anne will die tonight while the new one will die tomorrow. If they do things differently, it might change. With that, they head to the records room, where Anne finds the profile of the last two faces that she woke up with, seeing that they were admitted 3 years ago. Meanwhile, the new Anne finds the cell phone in the locker and unlocks it with her fingerprint. A different face is on the screen, and Anne watches her companion's face change into it. The new Anne then finds a photo of the man on the beach, whom they both saw during their hypnosis. Just then, the music plays, alerting them that Vertigo is arriving. The new Anne asks her companion never to leave her, and thinking of her previous companions, Anne promises that she won't. As Anne wonders about a weapon, another locker opens up, where she finds a pair of scissors. To change their fates, Anne gives the scissors to her companion and tells her to hide while she lures the demon away. While the new Anne hides in the auditorium, Anne faces Vertigo in the hallway. She tries to lead it away, but another Vertigo appears in the auditorium. Vertigo soon shows Anne her companion's body, making her run. She scrambles into the fire exit and ends up in what looks like a movie set with the building's rooftop as the backdrop. Confused, she runs into the backdrop where the rooftop becomes real. Hearing Vertigo around, she runs back into the fire exit, which is littered with torn plastic sheets. Suddenly, Vertigo covers her head with a sheet, choking her until she dies. After not moving for a while, Anne snaps awake, ripping the sheet off and revealing her new face. Anne then runs out the roof and smacks Vertigo's face with a stick. Upon breaking its mask, she finally sees a human face behind it. However, her opponent then pushes her off the roof. When Anne wakes up, she finds herself near the beach with her boyfriend while bearing a new face. Seeing a video game on her phone, she wonders if she's been playing too much that it gave her nightmares. As the two walk to the beach, Anne comments that it doesn't look the same as when she went there with her parents. She shares that her mother refused to go there after her parents divorced. Anne adds that she feels at peace with her boyfriend as she can be her true self around him. This makes him wonder if she's not always herself. When she gets home, she ignores her mother. The next day, her mother scolds her for using her phone too much, but Anne continues scrolling through Instagram. Her mother then announces that they'll be going on vacation, and Anne complains that she should have asked if she even wanted to go with her. Later, Anne watches her mother place her spare keys under a plant pot. They then attend Anne's doctor's appointment, where the young woman recounts her dream. The doctor, the same one in her dreams, notes that her nightmare was like a video game where she kept coming back to life. A nurse then brings in a glass of water, and Anne sees that it's the same glass the doctor uses to hypnotize her. As if knowing her thoughts, the doctor comments that she doesn't know how to do hypnosis. She then interprets Anne's dream as her not liking who she is, so the doctor advises her to accept the face she sees in the mirror, similar to what she said in Anne's dream. At school, Anne overhears her friends talking about their fake online accounts. Checking her Instagram, she discovers that she also has fake accounts, bearing few of the faces she dreamed about. In the restroom, her schoolmates start calling each other Anne, revealing that it's also their name. Suddenly, the place darkens, and Vertigo arrives. So Anne hides in her cubicle as the demon starts killing the others. When blood splatters into the cubicle, Anne rushes out but freezes as she sees the horrible scene. When Vertigo looks at her, her face changes again, and she's back in her patient's clothes. Anne screams and rushes out of the bathroom, holding the door closed as two new patients arrive. Like before, the other woman checks the door and finds it empty. Recognizing the scene, Anne confirms that the two are also Anne's. When the other one suggests going to the nurse's office, Anne tells them that she already did. She also finds her cell phone still in her pocket. Hoping to have a different outcome, Anne leads the others straight to the ground floor to escape. However, their faces suddenly change simultaneously. The music starts again, so the three run only to get cornered by Vertigo. It knocks down one of them, while the other comments that this isn't the time to be a hero before running away. Anne hesitates, but fear overpowers her, so she runs too. The two end up in a room full of Annes, who are rehearsing their lines from a script. The lady in the suit arrives and chooses one of the women, who gets on a gurney where she's sedated and transported. Seeing this, Anne realizes that they're merely avatars. She shows one of the real Anne's fake accounts from her phone, which shows the previous woman whom they just abandoned. Suddenly, the room darkens, and the others start seizing until they perish, leaving only the two Annes alive. Vertigo arrives, and this time, the two fight it. As the demon chokes the other, Anne slams the sledgehammer on Vertigo from behind. However, she's too late as the other woman has died. She mourns her companion before checking who's behind Vertigo's mask. She sees that it's also another Anne, but the other's face suddenly becomes blank. Anne inherits her appearance, allowing her to be Vertigo. During all these, a doctor takes a break from using shock therapy to awaken his patient. With Anne as the new Vertigo, she visits the new patient's room and kills her. Suddenly, the day restarts, and a new Anne wakes up. She finds the deer picture turned upside down, revealing the faces that make up its body. When she sees the cockroach, she throws the Bible at it, and the book opens to a page that someone has drawn on. Flipping through the pages, she sees someone's pleas about wanting to have a nice boyfriend and be her true self. The doctor arrives, noting that she's the first Anne to read the pages. Anne notes that she's read them before but can't remember when. The doctor implies that she wrote it, so they use the book for their next hypnotherapy session. During the trance, Anne sees herself in a bedroom where the faces in the photographs have been scratched out. From a computer, she reads posts about youths being tormented by life. She also sees a video game where the enemy is Vertigo. When she wakes up, the doctor notes that her face didn't change this time. Surprised, Anne asks why she lied about her face changing, and the doctor comments that she wasn't ready to hear it before. The doctor steps out, and when Anne tries to follow her, she disappears. The lights turn off, and Anne attempts to change her fate again. She goes downstairs and finds the room full of the others' bodies. The music plays, so Anne heads to the kitchen, but Vertigo captures her. It then puts her face near an open fire, but someone else knocks out Vertigo. She finally sees a man, who she calls Anthony. Anthony manages to lead her outside, and they reach a car, finally driving away. They traverse the woods but suddenly run over another Vertigo. Anthony checks if their enemy is still alive, and while Anne is watching him, he changes into the man she saw in her visions. Remembering that this is her father, Anne steps out as a child, seeing that her father just hit a deer, who's still alive. To end its misery, Anne's father takes a gun and shoots it. He then looks back to Anne, but the deer has turned into Vertigo, who shoots her father. Anne finds herself back in the room full of bodies with Vertigo aiming the gun at her, defending that there can only be one. However, Vertigo gives her the gun, asking her to choose as the real Anne can't be a demon like her. Vertigo removes her costume, revealing another Anne. She asks her companion to kill her, but the other refuses to be the real one, so she shoots herself. As Anne mourns, she suddenly gets transported into the bedroom. The the doctor is there, revealing that these events are from the real Anne's mind. The doctor explains that the real Anne created her based on her real-life psychiatrist, while the others were based on other people in her life. Her subconscious made them as the world was too frightening for her to be her real self. The real Anne was a famous cosplayer who jumped off a building due to online backlash. She is currently in intensive care, barely alive. Sympathizing with the tragic woman, Anne begs her not to hide behind them anymore. Realizing that the only way to end it is to erase the fake personas, she later stands at the roof's edge with the doctor. Soon, the facility becomes empty, and Anne's life flashes before her eyes. Anne finally wakes up, though she envisions vertigo before her as she now must face her demons in reality.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.